to my channel and thank you for being here. I'm going to be discussing how the lunar eclipse that's happening in Scorpio on May the 5th is going to affect you according to your ascendant sign. But most of all, to be precise, find out where 15 degrees of Scorpio is in your own natal birth chart because this is the point that is going to be activated by this lunar eclipse. I suggest that you watch the whole introduction of this video. There's information in the introduction that is going to help you evaluate your own personal chart. It's going to really help you understand which degrees are activated. This is how you will find out if this eclipse is going to be life-changing for you. So don't skip the introduction. There's a wealth of information here. Lunar eclipses tend to bring drastic changes in our lives. If you're planning to make a move 6 months from now, perhaps get married 6 months from now, this lunar eclipse comes in and perhaps remove some obstacles that really start pushing things forward, and things that you didn't expect to happen right away, things that you thought were going to happen later in the future, are going to start happening soon after the eclipse. Some of us may have gotten the message of the eclipse a month before the eclipse, and if you didn't get the message, this message is going to become quite clear a month from now. But essentially, it might take 6 months for the eclipse to reveal itself. Full moons are lunations that tend to make us really sensitive and emotional. So a lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, where the moon is in detriment, is going to be certainly very, very emotional and intense. So if you're feeling really triggered and you need support at this time, and perhaps your family, your friends cannot be there for you at this time, and you have absolutely no one to talk to or help you evaluate how this lunar eclipse is going to affect you according to your own natal birth chart, I suggest that you book a reading with me at rachel-mayo.com. I'm still running the special discount of 40% off most of my readings. This discount is going to end after the eclipse, so take advantage of this discount and book me now. If you enjoy the content of this video, please hit like, share and subscribe. Also make sure to share my videos with your friends and family or on your social media platform. Let me know how this lunar eclipse is affecting you personally. Leave me a comment in the comment section of this video. So this lunar eclipse is happening at 1:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is New York time. Make sure to check the time that it's happening in your own location in order to get the correct ascendant. 6 months ago, we had a solar eclipse in Scorpio that happened at around 2 degrees of Scorpio. This lunar eclipse is a conclusion of whatever you may have initiated at that time. Lunar eclipses tend to affect the feminine energy in our chart. It's most likely going to affect the females in your life. So what is a lunar eclipse? A lunar eclipse happens when the sun opposes the moon at a particular degree, creating what we call a full moon. A lunar eclipse occurs when the transiting north node and south nodes are in proximity with the lunation, making it a lunar eclipse. So the energy of the lunar eclipse is essentially 6 times more potent than a regular full moon. This full moon is happening on the south node, the Scorpio south node. So whatever happens or comes to an end is not going to be something that is new. Scorpio is a fixed water sign. Fixed signs tend to hold on to things past their due date. So we have been holding on to certain situations, relationships, jobs that have not been working, and perhaps even toxic. These are the situations that are going to come to a close. The south node is the area where we let go, and the north node is the area where we move forward toward destiny. So let's go back and look at the solar eclipse that happened in the sign of Aries. That solar eclipse happened at 29 degrees of Aries. That is the very, very last degree in a sign. And this eclipse is important because Pluto was squaring this eclipse. So essentially that eclipse, if anything, was breaking down old structures in our lives that we thought were never going to break down. Pluto was breaking down things that we thought were certain. This South Node lunar eclipse in Scorpio is only going to emphasize the things that we need to let go. The things that Pluto probably already started to break down. He already put a wrecking ball to it and was probably still in denial about letting go. Well, at this lunar eclipse, if we don't let go of the past and past situations, past relationship, past jobs, this lunar eclipse is going to eclipse them out of our life. Let's just keep in mind that Pluto is going to retrograde back into Capricorn and square the eclipse that happened, the solar eclipse in Aries. So that eclipse is going to be reactivated a few times, even into next year. This eclipse is intense. It's emotional. We're probably going to have a high level of anxiety. We're going to feel really triggered emotionally, simply because the ruler of this eclipse, Pluto, the other ruler of Scorpio, Mars, is currently transiting the sign of Cancer. Mars does not like to be in Cancer because he's exalted in the opposite sign of Capricorn. So we're dealing with passive aggressive energy and deep emotions, and these emotions could be about our family, our homeland, our emotion of safety. So there might be breakdowns going on within your family, arguments with your mother, issues concerning moving, real estate. All those things may come up at the time of this eclipse. Let's also remember that Cancer is the natural fourth house of the zodiac. The fourth house is where issues come to end. This is the house that rules over our ancestors. It rules over our home, our deep emotions, and sometimes our resentments. So a lot of childhood trauma may be brought up at the time of this eclipse, and it might be an opportunity for you to release these negative emotions at the south node. And then let's look at where the moon is in Scorpio. The moon is in detriment in the sign of Scorpio. The moon is exalted in the opposite sign of Taurus, and in Scorpio he does not function very well. He becomes very obsessive, becomes jealous, and tends to hold on to past emotions and resentments. So as you can see here, there's a mutual reception because the moon is being hosted by Scorpio, ruled by Mars, and Cancer rules the moon and is hosting Mars. So this lunar eclipse is bringing a lot of detrimental energy. Mars is in detriment in Cancer. The moon is in detriment in Scorpio. This could be like two individuals dealing with different levels of depression, passive aggression, and anger. This is all going to be highlighted at the time of this lunar eclipse. So just watch out if you're easily angered, easily triggered. It's going to be really emphasized at this lunation. So I don't want you to think that this eclipse is all negative. We certainly have to do a lot of purging of emotions, purging of old situations, elimination, and just basically letting go. There is a very positive sextile from Venus to Jupiter. Let's remember that Venus is the ruler of the North Node. You see the stellium on the North Node in the sign of Taurus. This is where we go to after we've done the letting go. So the letting go is inevitable. We have to release, we have to let go. When Venus enters Cancer, she will immediately square the last lunation, the solar eclipse in Aries, the one at 29 degrees. The solar eclipse degree is going to be activated whenever a planet enters any of the cardinal signs. When Venus actually moves into the sign, when she enters the sign of Cancer, she's going to become more nurturing and sensitive, and she's going to move into a trine with Saturn. This is a very positive aspect that's going to solidify relationships. It's going to solidify commitments, and it's going to bring some type of stability in the houses involved. So there is some hope. Do not despair. Just hang in there, and this shall pass too. And another really positive aspect is that Jupiter is going to enter the sign of Taurus and is also going to immediately square that lunation, that eclipse that we had in the sign of Aries. So there's another trigger, and this time from Jupiter. And when Jupiter touches anything, it expands it. It makes it larger. The really positive aspect to look forward to is when Jupiter is entering the sign of Taurus around May 18. This is really positive because Jupiter is also going to be trining Saturn. This aspect is one to really look forward to. This aspect makes things happen. This is the aspect that makes things happen in your life. This aspect will change your life. Where is it happening in your own natal birth chart? this is the time that we're going to see, this is the time that we're going to start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Saturn solidifies, brings stability, and makes things real. Jupiter brings abundance and blessings, and he expands whatever he touches. And at this time, he's expanding the real things in the sign of Taurus, real tangible things. I think things are going to get a lot better for everyone towards the latter part of the year. These aspects are going to bring major changes in the houses that are being aspected. This lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio is our last chance to get rid of old karma, dead issues, rotten issues that have to be eliminated. These issues have been in our life for a very, very long time. It's time to let go. This is our last chance because this is going to be the last lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio before the lunar nodes move into the Aries and Libra axes. The next time there will be an eclipse in this sign in Scorpio will be 9 years from now. The other degree that is going to be reactivated at the time of this lunar eclipse is 1841 of Taurus. This is where Uranus is currently transiting. 1841 degrees of Taurus is where there was the Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction. So this eclipse is reactivating that triple conjunction. This is definitely going to be wild. Secrets about money, other people's money, belongings, possessions, secrets in the family, dark secrets, sexual secrets are also going to be revealed at the time of this lunar eclipse. Pluto is definitely going to dig into the past in his retrograde cycle and bring up whatever has been hidden. So if you have any family secrets about your birth, your ancestry, or perhaps even child trauma, all these things are going to be brought up at the time of this lunar eclipse. This is quite necessary for some. There is no going back. Everything will be up in the there's no going back. Everything will be illuminated. The lunar eclipse is going to shine the light on secrets. So there's nowhere to hide. Just tell the truth, come clean, give back what is not yours. Tell the truth, you will be caught anyway. So if you don't have any underhanded issues, you're not in a hidden affair cheating on someone, you have nothing to worry about. But then again, it all depends exactly where this lunar eclipse is happening in your own birth chart. This is why I highly suggest that you get a reading with a professional astrologer like myself or somebody else. This might be that life-changing lunar eclipse, the one that is really going to turn the tables in your life and in the lives of your family and the people around you. The 1st of May was a very important astrological date. This is when Mercury was caziming the Sun. Mercury was within the same degree of the Sun. And when this happens, we get information that may have been hidden from us is certainly brought up at this time, and things seem to look a little bit clear, or you're armed with the information that you needed in order to proceed with certain actions. However, Mercury is retrograde at the time of this cazimi and is going to be retrograde at the time of the lunar eclipse. So certainly it's not a time to make big life-changing decisions. Wait for Mercury to be moving direct before you make any life-changing decisions. And the other reason you shouldn't be jumping into conclusions and making big changes is because the eclipse, when an eclipse occurs, if the energy is very dense and things are not clear yet, it's after the eclipse itself happens that things are brought to light. Whatever was hidden is going to be brought up to the surface. And the other reason is Pluto is also going retrograde, and Pluto rules this lunation, and Pluto is reactivating the prior solar eclipse that happened in Aries. So Pluto is digging up old issues. Whatever we may have been hiding from others or even from ourselves is going to be brought up at the time of this lunation. And that is because Pluto rules the 8th house of the zodiac. The 8th house is where we keep our secrets. Secrets that we keep from others and even perhaps from ourselves. This is a house of deep trauma, childhood trauma, sexual trauma. So all these things are also going to be brought up to the surface. The other things that the 8th house rules over is other people's money, banks, mortgages, loans, lottery wins, inheritances. All these are issues which are going to be brought up. Since these issues are on the south node, these are the things that we have to be letting go of. So if you owe someone money, they will be looking for a payment at this time. If you've been doing anything underhanded in your intimate relationships, perhaps you've been cheating on your partner, the relationship is going to be revealed at the time of this lunar eclipse. The other factor that adds to more confusion is that Venus is going to square Neptune at the time of this lunation. Venus square Neptune is an aspect that adds delusion and perhaps deception in some situations, and these deceptions could be something to do with our money, since Venus rules money, or our love relationships. Venus rules love relationships. Another reason why you should not be jumping into conclusions and making final decisions. Let this energy dissipate before you start making life-changing decisions. Venus is sextile Chiron. This aspect is a positive aspect that gives an opportunity for us to heal our wounds and perhaps to talk about our wounds with someone. Venus in Gemini wants to talk about the wounds, and Chiron, ruled by Mars, wants you to take this action of talking to someone. So if this eclipse is hitting you hard, it's certainly not a time to be alone. Find somebody who you trust, someone who you can talk to. But it's not all negative. So if you have negative habits like jealousies, obsessions, and just holding on to things that are really not useful for you moving forward, this eclipse is going to help you release those situations. And if you have hidden emotions, deep resentments, childhood trauma, this is an excellent time for you to go for counseling, some type of therapy, and release all those negative emotions. There's also a lot of opportunity in this lunar eclipse. The 8th house also rules over sex, death, and taxes. So those are those are the areas which are also going to be brought up at this time. Maybe some of us will be paying off a mortgage, or for some people who owe money, that debt is going to become due and you're going to have to pay out. Or perhaps if you have family disputes about property, inheritances, those issues are going to have to be settled. Those issues are going to come up, and they're going to have to be settled. There's no walking away. So when something is eclipsed out of your life, especially with a lunar eclipse, that thing is gone. It's dead, especially in the sign of Scorpio. It's not going to be revived. So that means if you get fired, you're not going to be called back at that job. If a relationship ends, don't even beg for reconciliation, because there's no chance of reconciliation. It's best to just save your dignity and your pride and just walk away. So basically, when something ends at this lunar eclipse, it's ending for good. You should use this energy to transform yourself or transform the situation. The endings are final. So the last time we had a lunar eclipse at the same exact degree was on May 4th of 2004. This happened at 1442 of Scorpio. So go back and look at what happened. What changed in your life? What did you have to let go? What changed in your life at that time? It's not going to be the same thing that's going to change. So if you had a really bad experience with that lunar eclipse, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to have a bad experience with this one. Vice versa, if things really worked out good, doesn't mean they're going to be just as good this time. It's the area, the house, that is where you're going to feel this energy. And this is because the outer planets were in different houses, different signs at that time. And now we have Uranus, who is opposing this lunation. So this lunar eclipse is going to have a certain element of surprise, the unexpected. It's not like the things that happen as a result of the opposition from the moon to Uranus are things which are totally brand new. It's past issues, but it's the way that they happen. The news that we get concerning those issues or the timing is what's going to be surprising. And Uranus has a positive sextile to Mars. So Mars is one of the rulers of this lunation. That is some help right there. There will be opportunities for us to take advantage of certain situations to improve the outcome of this lunar eclipse. So essentially it means that some people may be falling and losing a lot of money. Within those certain structures or situations breaking down, there will be other people who will be able to take advantage of those situations and make a profit. So it just all depends what kind of business you're in and how you can take advantage of other people losing money, which is definitely going to happen because the South Node is in the sign of Scorpio, which rules over other people's money, big money. And Pluto is breaking down shit, and Pluto is going to be breaking down things for a while. Also because Pluto is squaring the nodes. And when we have a square to the nodes, in astrology, this is called a skipped step. And a skipped step will push us into taking action. Action that we should have probably taken in the past, or perhaps in a past life. We're going to be pushed into taking that action, realizing that things cannot be the same. A square aspect pushes us into taking action. And remember, Pluto is still breaking down structures, and he's going to go back into Capricorn and make sure whatever was not demolished to the ground is demolished to the ground, and then he'll move back forward. So he'll still be re-triggering that solar eclipse, and he'll still be squaring the nodes pretty much for the rest of the year. So we have a lot of work ahead, and it's the people who are not in denial, people who are taking on situations and letting go of whatever needs to be let go, purging and eliminating dead situations, removing those toxic relationships out of your life, releasing obsessions and jealousies and childhood trauma. Those are the people who are going to go ahead. Those are the people who are not going to find this lunar eclipse as challenging. It's those people that want to hold on to expired situations that are going to find this lunar eclipse quite miserable. So which signs are going to be affected the most by this lunar eclipse? Of course, it's the fixed signs. The fixed signs are Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Scorpio is going to be affected the most because, of course, this lunar eclipse is happening in your sign. This lunar eclipse is happening in your sign, so it's really personal for you. Leo and Aquarius are going to experience the square aspect. This is the challenging aspect that will push you into taking some sort of action at the time of this lunar eclipse. Taurus is going to be affected by a rather challenging aspect called the opposition. This means that others will be opposing you at the time of this lunar eclipse. The water signs are going to have a better experience at the time of this lunation. The water signs are Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio. Scorpio, this eclipse is happening in your sign, so it's going to affect you the most. Cancer and Pisces are going to experience the trine aspect. The trine aspect allows energy to flow harmoniously between the houses. The water signs are going to sextile the sun in Taurus. This is a very harmonious aspect that brings opportunities your way. However, make sure you're taking action to use this energy, otherwise it's just going to dissipate. So whatever is ending for the two water signs, Cancer and Pisces, this harmonious aspect is going to bring some positive energy and it's going to make endings happen a little bit easier for you. The earth signs are also going to have a better experience at the time of this lunation. The earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. However, let's keep in mind that the sign of Taurus is being opposed by this lunation. The earth signs that are going to have a better experience at the time of this lunation are Virgo and Capricorn. They're going to be having a sextile and trine aspect to this lunation. The sextile aspect is definitely a harmonious aspect. It'll bring you opportunities to make things happen at the time of this lunation. It actually requires you to make an effort to make use of this energy. If you don't take action, the energy is just going to dissipate. The trine aspect from the sun in Taurus is going to make the energy flow harmoniously to your sign. If you were born on or around the 5th of May, a few days before or a few days after, you're also going to be highly impacted by this lunar eclipse, simply because this lunar eclipse is going to be present in your solar return. That means you're going to experience this energy of endings, purging, culmination, elimination for the rest of the solar year. This is the year that things are definitely going to change in your life. This is an excellent time for you to get a solar return chart reading with me so that we can find out where this energy is concentrated in your solar return chart. So make sure you book a reading with me at rachel-mayo.com. So let's take a look at the chart of the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. The moon is currently transiting the sign of Scorpio at around 15 degrees of Scorpio, opposing the sun in the sign of Taurus at 15 degrees of Taurus. This opposition is essentially the definition of a full moon. So let's look for the lunar node. We have to have the lunar nodes within 18 degrees of the lunation in order to make it an eclipse. So the north node is currently transiting the sign of Taurus at 335 degrees of Taurus. The south node is in Scorpio at the same degree, 335 of Scorpio. So they are very close to this lunation. This is the last solar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. The next time we'll have the lunar nodes transiting these signs is 9 years from now. The moon is in detriment in the sign of Scorpio because, of course, the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. So the moon is feeling out of place in this sign, and it has no company. There's no other planet transiting the sign of Scorpio. So let's look at the stellium in the sign of Taurus. We have Mercury, who is currently transiting retrograde at around 9 degrees of Taurus. And we also have Uranus transiting the sign of Taurus at 1841 degrees of Taurus. This degree should be very familiar to all of you. This is where there was a triple conjunction last year at the beginning of August. The triple conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. So essentially, that conjunction is being reactivated at the time of this lunar eclipse. So if you didn't have an event occur as a result of that triple conjunction, you're definitely going to have an event occur at the time of this lunation, because that triple conjunction is being definitely reactivated by this lunation. This will also affect you much more if you have something at that degree, 1841. So if you haven't watched the video that I did about this triple conjunction, I suggest that you look for this video on my channel. It's definitely going to give you more information. So because there's a lot more energy, a lot more planetary action happening on the North Node, this means that the endings that are going to be occurring at this lunation are endings that are necessary so that we can move towards our destined future. There's more planetary action, more planets at the North Node. And remember, the moon moves very quickly, so the moon will be out of the sign of Scorpio within a day or two. So it's very possible that this lunation is making you very highly emotionally charged. You're feeling a lot of intensity because of the things that you have to let go of, things that you really have been holding on for a while. So it's going to be really difficult for us to experience this lunation. Just remember that it's necessary for you to let go in order to move towards your destined future. So let's look for the rulers of this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and the rulers are Mars and Pluto. Mars being the traditional ruler and Pluto being the modern ruler. Pluto is currently transiting the sign of Aquarius at 0 degrees. 0 degree is a critical degree, and Pluto in Aquarius is a transit that none of us have ever experienced, simply because Pluto takes over 248 years to go around the zodiac. So this essentially something really absolutely brand new that we are all experiencing as a collective. Pluto is squaring the karmic nodes at the time of this lunation. The karmic nodes at 3 degrees in a tight square to Pluto at 0 degrees. We're definitely being pushed into taking action. Actions that will change the course of the future for mankind. Any planet that squares the nodes in astrology is called a skipped step. So perhaps there's something that we forgot to really let go of or conclude at the time of the solar eclipse in Aries, when Pluto was squaring the solar eclipse. So this is definitely time for you to fulfill that skip step. It's time for you to let go. It's time for you to let go. Let the destruction happen. Let the transformation come in. The other ruler of this lunation is Mars, and he's currently transiting at 21 degrees of Cancer. Mars is in detriment in the sign of Cancer because he likes to be in the sign of Capricorn. This is another reason we're going to be highly sensitive, because Mars in the sign of Cancer is highly emotional and perhaps even passive aggressive, and Mars is dealing with issues of home and family and perhaps some endings, because Cancer is the natural fourth house of the zodiac. That's an angle house. The fourth house is the house where things come to an end. Mars is having a challenging aspect because he's squaring Jupiter at the time of this lunation. However, a square to Jupiter is not that negative because Jupiter tends to bring in some type of healing energy and optimism to whatever planet he touches. There is an out of sign opposition between the rulers of this lunation. Mars is opposing Pluto, who is currently transiting the sign of Aquarius at 0 degrees. This is an out of sign opposition. So this aspect is definitely bringing some element of confusion. The rulers of this lunation are not quite agreeing at the time of this lunar eclipse. So there is an element of confusion here. However, Mars is getting some assistance here because he is trining the moon in Scorpio. There is a harmonious sextile to the sun in the sign of Taurus. So this means that there will be some type of assistance, some type of help at the time of this lunation. So whatever is ending at this time, just know that there's somebody who you can lean on. Mars in the sign of Cancer is dealing with family endings and emotional stuff. The moon in Scorpio is sextile Mars in Cancer. There is a mutual reception here because the moon is hosting the ruler of this lunation. The moon rules Cancer and is being hosted in Scorpio where this lunation is happening. This is called a mutual reception. Mars is in detriment in the sign of Cancer. He's not happy there. The moon is in detriment in the sign of Scorpio and he's not happy there either. So these two planets who are significant players in this lunation are both rather depressed, but they're working together because they're in mutual reception. Mars is sextile Uranus at 1841 degrees of Uranus. Mars was also part of that triple conjunction that happened in Taurus at the beginning of August last year. So Mars is definitely bringing opportunities. He's triggering the degree of that conjunction. So expect a continuation of issues that you may have begun as a result of that triple conjunction. So this lunation is also opposing Uranus and Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus. Uranus is a planet of the unexpected. So expect sudden events to occur at the time of this lunation. So something may change quite unexpectedly as a result of this lunation. But fortunately, there is that wide sextile from Mars to planet Uranus in the sign of Taurus. This aspect is an aspect that's going to bring opportunities that we can take advantage of, opportunities that we can use. Take advantage of these opportunities to move yourself forward towards your destined future, the North Node. This is where your fate and future lies. This aspect is also asking you to be open-minded to different, unique ways of taking action. And since it's also widely aspecting Mercury with a sextile aspect, it's asking you to think out of the box in order to find solutions. It's asking you to think out of the box and take action. Venus is the ruler of the North Node and she is currently transiting the sign of Gemini. She's almost completing her journey in this sign. Venus is in an out of sign trine aspect with Saturn, who's currently transiting at around 6 degrees of Pisces. Venus will be moving into the sign of Cancer and going to an exact trine with Saturn. This is a very positive aspect. This is an aspect which is supporting whatever decisions we make to move towards our future. This aspect is going to support and solidify the actions that we decide to take to move towards our future. Of course, that is after we've let go of what needs to be let go on the South Node in Scorpio. Mercury retrograde was Kazimi the Sun on the 1st of May. This aspect may have brought up some missing information, making things clear. Mercury in Taurus is being hosted by Venus, the ruler of the North Node. Venus, the ruler of the North Node, is being hosted by Mercury. Is being hosted by Mercury because she's currently transiting the sign of Gemini. So there is a mutual reception going on between these two houses. So our thoughts, our mind and communication is in sync with our values. Wait for Mercury to go direct before you make any life-changing decisions. The other reason is that at the time of eclipses, things may not be quite clear. Venus in Gemini is square Neptune, who's currently at around 26 degrees of Pisces. This aspect is going to bring an element of deception, illusion, and confusion in matters that are ruled by where these planets are transiting, and also about the direction, the decisions we must make in order to move us to our future. Venus is sextile asteroid Chiron at 17 degrees of Aries. This aspect is bringing an opportunity for healing our Venus and Mars issues because Mars rules the sign of Aries. So Venus in Gemini wants us to talk about our wounding. This is an excellent time for you to go into therapy and let go of those resentments and deep emotions that the South Node is bringing up, and the emotions that are going on, or the things that are going on in your family, and your deep hidden emotions in the sign of Cancer. We're all being emotionally triggered at the time of this lunar eclipse. Venus in Gemini sextile Chiron is saying, talk about your wounding, talk to someone. The Scorpio lunar eclipse has a major ouch factor to it. Mars, the ruler of this lunar eclipse, is square Chiron, who's transiting at around 17 degrees of Aries. The square aspect is a challenging aspect that could really hurt. So this will be another area of irritation and pain. Perhaps our old wounds will be opened up at the time of this lunar eclipse. Old wounds. Fortunately, we have transiting Saturn in the sign of Pisces at around 6 degrees of Pisces, who is widely trining and sextiling this lunation. Saturn is going to help us feel grounded. Our emotions are not going to be as all over the place. If we use the energy of this trine and sextile, it's very supportive and very grounding. So perhaps later, after we have let go and everything is said and done, we will feel somewhat stabilized. So Pluto is going retrograde on the 1st of May. Pluto is going to go back into the underworld and bring up whatever has been hidden. Secrets. Whatever secrets that you've been keeping, whatever secrets that have been kept from us are going to be released at this time. And Pluto is going to stay on this degree for a very, very long time. Pluto is going to come back into the sign of Aquarius, probably around December, at the end of the year. So we are going to all be feeling this energy of breakdown and elimination and things being pushed up to the surface. So we cannot hide our secrets anymore. They cannot hide their secrets anymore. We have to face whatever it is that is in the past, the things that we need to let go of. We have to face reality. These situations are no longer serving us. It's time to definitely cut. It's time to definitely cut ties with the past. Aries, ascendant, sun or moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your 8th house. This is where you're going to have endings and culminations. This is where you're going to have to release something that you've been holding on to for a very, very long time. The things that you have to release, purge and let go of are not new things. These are things that you've been holding on to for a while. These are toxic situations. So perhaps if you've been involved in a toxic romantic relationship or a toxic marriage or some other type of toxic business agreement, it is absolutely going to bring endings. It's definitely time for you to let go. You've tried to hold on to these situations and make things work. They're simply not going to work. So let those endings happen. So Aries, if you've not listened to the introduction of this video, I suggest that you go back and listen to the whole introduction, because everything I say pretty much pertains to you, because Scorpio rules your 8th house. So these endings are going to be deeply personal. You could be highly emotional and passive aggressive at the time of this lunar eclipse. Your ruling planet Mars is transiting the sign of Cancer. He's transiting an angle house. And when an angle house is activated at a time of a lunation, it affects all the other angles in your chart. Therefore, you're going to feel this energy pretty much in almost every area of your life. Mars transiting the 4th house is not a very happy aspect, and being the ruler of this lunation, Mars in the 4th house is already trying to bring endings in this area. Perhaps you're having a lot of arguments with the family or with people in your home, or perhaps there's some type of really aggressive action like renovations or moving taking place in your home area. Fortunately, Mars is being positively aspected because he's aspecting this lunation by a trine and sextile aspect, and also trine Neptune. So these harmonious aspects to Mars say that are going to provide you the assistance that you need at the time of this lunation, no matter how difficult those endings are. And these endings for you could be really personal, because Mars is dealing with family, and the 8th house is the house of death and transformation. So it could be that somebody older, an older parent, or somebody you're really intimately bonded and connected to is passing at the time of this lunation, and also opening the window for you to have access to other people's money through an inheritance. And for others, it could be that you have some type of opportunity to pay off a loan or a mortgage at the time of this lunation. This lunar eclipse is asking you to let go of anything that's toxic in your life. This is time to let go and release. Taurus, ascendant, sun or moon. The lunar eclipse is happening in your 7th house. The 7th house is an angle house. So this means that this lunar eclipse is activating all the other angles in your chart. This lunar eclipse could absolutely transform your whole entire life. The descendant opposes the ascendant, that is you. So you are going to be opposed by others. People are not going to agree with whatever people are not going to agree with you at this time. They're going to have their own views and opinions. And this axis squares the MC and the IC. So whatever happens as a result of the endings that occur in your relationships, these changes are going to impact your whole entire chart. The 7th house rules over deep committed relationships like marriage, agreements, business arrangements, any type of commitment you have with another person is ruled by this house. This is also the house of business, because in order to do business, you have to deal with another person. There has to be some type of interaction with other people. Those areas in your chart are also highlighted. The 7th house also deals with known enemies. You could be happily married to somebody for some time, and later on there could be disagreements or some type of there could be infidelity or some type of disagreements, and then that person who was your loving partner now becomes your known enemy. So essentially this house also rules over lawyers, because if that happens, you're definitely looking to get a divorce. So this could actually be a reality for some of you. So if you've been in a marriage that has been toxic and you've been holding on and praying and hope things just magically somehow work out, this eclipse is going to eclipse that marriage out of your life. It's going to release that person. So if a marriage or business partnership ends for you at this time, just simply let go. Because when somebody is eclipsed out as a result of a lunar eclipse, especially one as intense and karmic as this one, a south node eclipse, the marriage or relationship is done, it's kaput. So just save your pride, do not beg for reconciliation or have hopes that this could be rekindled somehow. It's over, it's done, just walk away. Your ruling planet Venus is currently transiting the sign of Gemini. She's about to complete her transit in this sign and will immediately go into a trine aspect with Saturn. This is a very positive and supportive aspect. So whatever ends at this time, whatever may be difficult, Saturn is going to come in and support whatever decisions that you decide to make. Decisions that are going to bring major improvements and solid development in your future. Because remember, you are ruling the North Node, and when the North Node is transiting in your sign, it is definitely a time for you to be selfish. Make decisions that support you. Make decisions that are beneficial to you. And these decisions that you make at this time will be in your life, will stay in your life for a very long time to come, because you are the ruler of the North Node. Yes, and the stamp from Saturn is very positive. So look forward to new adventures. And another thing to look forward to, Taurus, I know you've been through a lot of difficult times, a lot of challenges. You're going to have Jupiter transiting your sign for a year. The last half of 2023 is definitely going to be a better time for it. It's definitely going to be a better experience for you, Taurus, and for all Taurus placements. Gemini, ascendant, sun or moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your 6th house. This is where you're going to have culminations and endings. The 6th house rules over our daily routine, our exercise regimen, our diet. It also rules over our work environment and the people in our work environment. I always forget to mention this because I don't have a pet. The 6th house rules over our pets. So expect something to be going on with your pets. Or some of you will decide to buy a pet at this time. The sixth house also rules over our co-workers and our bosses or managers. The sixth house is the house where we fight. This is a difficult house. Obviously, going to work every day is not an easy task, yet we have to do it every day repeatedly. The sixth house also rules over our known enemies, and this could be a co-worker who is highly competitive against you, and another known enemy in the sixth house could be our habits like smoking, overeating, drinking, or doing drugs. That is your known enemy. So when you have a known enemy, when the situation gets really toxic, you end up hiring a lawyer. So this is also the house of litigation and the house of lawyers. So if you've been working in a toxic environment, perhaps you have an issue with a co-worker or with a boss or a manager, this is the time that you're going to decide to quit this job and leave this toxic work environment behind. If you're the person who's causing the hostility in the work environment, this is the time that you are possibly going to be let go. And if you feel that the decision that was made was unfair, this is the time. This could also be the time that some of you decide to sue your employer, so you might be actually looking for a lawyer at around the time of this lunation. I suggest you just wait for Mercury to be moving forward before you choose a lawyer to represent you. And since this eclipse is asking you to let go of bad habits, purging comes into play. So if you have a bad eating habit that's really impacting your health, this eclipse is asking you to make changes, to release and let go of that bad eating habit, and it's also asking you to release other bad habits like smoking, drink, all the other bad habits that I mentioned earlier. So this eclipse will be a great time for you to start a new diet, to stop smoking, stop doing drugs, stop over drinking, anything that is detrimental to your health. This is the best energy for you to release those toxic habits. And some of you might actually get news from your doctor that there's something going on with your health and you actually need to make these changes. So these changes may be actually forced on you. Your ruling planet Mercury is currently transiting retrograde in Taurus. Taurus is where the North Node is also currently transiting. Mercury is being hosted by Venus, and Venus is transiting your sign, Gemini. So you're hosting Venus. So there is a mutual reception going on between these planets, and this reception is very high. This reception is highly beneficial to you, and it can help you make the necessary changes to move yourself into the right direction, a direction that is actually much more beneficial for your health or your daily routine. So Gemini, expect changes in your work environment. Jobs could come to an end at this time. Toxic eating habits or other bad habits could come to an end at this time. You can do it voluntarily or it will be done for you. Just trust that you're going to benefit from these endings eventually. Cancer, Ascendant, Sun or Moon. The lunar eclipse is happening in your 5th house. This is where you're going to have culminations and endings. The 5th house is a happy house, so usually lunations are pleasant in this house. The 5th house rules over creativity, our creative ability, and our greatest creation is our children. So this house rules over our children. It also rules over romantic affairs. It rules over entertainment. It also rules over our talents. And sometimes we may start a business because of our creative ability. From our talents, we could actually earn money. So all of these issues are being highlighted at the time of this lunar eclipse. Fortunately for you, Cancer, this lunar eclipse is in trine with your sign. So it means that there's positive energy that is flowing to your sign. And there's also another trine to the sign of Pisces. Neptune is currently transiting there. These trines are forming what we call a grand water trine, which is very, very beneficial for you, Cancer. So however you're feeling at this time, you're probably feeling agitated with Mars transiting your sign. It's definitely bringing up intense emotional feelings and is probably making you passive aggressive. And your ruling planet, the moon, that is being eclipsed at the time of this lunation in the sign of Scorpio, is also in detriment. So you're in your feelings, so you're definitely being emotionally triggered at the time of this lunation, but that grand water trine is going to help you handle your emotions. So just have faith that everything is eventually going to work out. Some of you could experience endings with your children. If your children had bad habits, toxic habits, or ways of behavior, or just doing things which are highly negative, and you've been struggling to find a way to make them end these bad habits, this lunation is going to definitely bring an ending in that area. And if you've been involved in a romantic relationship, a relationship that has become toxic, and you've been holding on and just hoping that things resolve themselves somehow magically, you have done everything you can. This is time to absolutely let go of this. This is absolutely the best. This is absolutely the energy you need to let go of a toxic relationship. So release that romantic relationship that has not been working for a while. The fifth house also rules over entertainment. So perhaps some of you have a bad habit of gambling, you know, spending money that is needed for bills because of your gambling habit. This is the time that you can actively let go of this habit. It's definitely long overdue. It's needed. So the fifth house also rules over pregnancy. So if you are pregnant, if you're pregnant and you're close to your delivery date, this lunar eclipse is definitely going to push you into labor. So I suggest that you get ready. Expect anything to happen at this lunation. Cancer, if you didn't listen to the introduction of this video, I suggest that you go back and listen to the whole introduction. The moon is being eclipsed at this lunation, and it's very lonely over there in the sign of Scorpio. No other planets are there, so you are going to be really impacted by this lunation. Leo, ascendant, sun or moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your fourth house. This is where you'll have culminations and endings. And this is the area you'll have to let go of something that you've been holding on to for dear life. Leo is a fixed sign, and your fourth house is an angle house. This is where the impact is happening at the time of this lunation. Whenever an angle house is activated in your chart, it activates all the other angles in your chart. So this means that whatever endings occur as a result of this lunation, they will affect your entire chart, your whole life. This will be a life-changing lunar eclipse for you, Leo. You're aspecting this lunar eclipse by a square aspect, which is a challenging aspect. You will be pushed into taking action at the time of this lunation. So what does the fourth house rule over? The fourth house rules over our home, our family, our deep emotions, deep resentments that we may have towards our family, our mother. It also rules over our past, the ancestors, our past, our ancestors. This is the house also that also rules over our homeland, as in our country, the country that you live or the country that you were born in. The fourth house also rules over endings. There's already a big theme of endings and letting go at the time of this lunar eclipse, as it is happening in the sign of Scorpio. So this means that some of you Leos will be forced or pushed into letting go of your home, your homeland. You know, perhaps something has been going on in your home, something has been going on in your house, in your home, something that has been toxic, and you've just been holding on and hoping that you find a resolution or something changes. It's not going to change. This is the time of purging that situation. It's a time of eliminating that situation. Perhaps it's a person in your home area that has been toxic. Perhaps you have to let that person go. If it's the entire home or living situation, this lunation is going to remove that toxic situation, or perhaps remove you out of that toxic environment. That means there could be endings in your home, in your living situation. You may be moving, or you may be forced to move. There could be endings with one of your parents, perhaps your mother or your father, because the fourth house is also the parental axis. So if either parent has been ill for a while, this is a time that they will transition to the other side. this could be a reality for some of you. Not all of you, for some of you. Especially if your IC is at exactly 15 degrees of Scorpio. This is going to be very intense for you. And for others that have been harboring resentments towards their family or their mother, these resentments are going to be brought up to the surface. This will be time for you to deal with these emotions and resentments. It could be, and this is an excellent time for you to seek therapy and get healing. This is an excellent time for you to let go of any type of toxicity or negativity in your 4th house area. This is going to be a challenging eclipse for you, Leo. It might upend your security, your home, your family. So if you need some support, I suggest that you book a reading with me. The link to the readings or to my website is going to be below this video. Your ruling planet, the Sun, is always part of any type of lunation. The Sun is part of this lunar eclipse, so you are going to feel this lunation intensely. The Sun is highly being aspected by an opposition to the Moon, creating this full moon and lunar eclipse. Leo, if you've not listened to the introduction of this video, I suggest that you go and listen to the whole introduction, because you're going to find out all the other aspects to the Sun. So Leo, I suggest that you look into the other houses. Perhaps you have something else that's positively aspecting this lunation. It's going to bring you some type of assistance or relief at the time of this lunation. Virgo, Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 3rd house. This is where you're going to have culminations and endings. This is also the area where you're going to have to release something that you've been holding on for dear life. It's not going to work out anymore, so this lunation is going to eclipse it. This lunation is going to eclipse it out of your life. The 3rd house rules over our immediate environment, our siblings. It also rules over our gadgets, our computers that we use every day for communication. This is the house of communication and our thoughts, our mind process. This is the house that also rules over education, primary education. So expect to have endings and culminations with any of those things. So Virgo, if you've been learning a new skill and perhaps you found that learning process a bit challenging, this is the time that you're going to be concluding that training or education. And if you've been writing a book on a very intense and emotional topic, a book that maybe is part of your history, is a book that is maybe based on part of your history, a biography that could have been perhaps very intense, a book that you perhaps revealed a lot of intimate details about your life, this is the time that you'll be concluding that book. And you're going to feel a sense of relief and release when you conclude writing this book. Virgo, if you've had toxic relationships with a neighbor or a sibling, this is the time that relationship or situation is going to come to a culmination or perhaps an end. This is the time that if you cannot agree to disagree with either your neighbor or your sibling, you might have to walk away from this relationship. So since the 3rd house also rules over your immediate environment, if your immediate environment has been toxic, this is the time that you're going to decide to release this immediate environment and move to a whole brand new neighborhood. The 3rd house also rules over our gadgets, phones and computers. If you've been holding on to a computer or a phone, this is the time that it might completely die out on you, and you may just have to let that one go, and you may have to just let that gadget go and replace it with a brand new gadget, and if your car has been giving you problems and you've been fixing it and you've been pouring money into it, fixing it and then something else breaks down, and you fix that and then something else breaks down, it's probably going to break down completely this time, and it might be too expensive for you. It might be too expensive for you to fix it. You may have to replace that vehicle with a brand new one. Because the 3rd house also rules the mind. If you've been having negative, toxic thoughts or self-talk, this is the time that you can release that negativity, negative way of looking at yourself or negative way of thinking or speaking for some. The ruling planet Mercury is currently transiting retrograde in the sign of Taurus. So this is not the time for you to make final definite decisions about anything at the time of this lunation. Things are not clear yet, so wait for this energy of the lunar eclipse to pass and wait for your ruling planet to start moving forward. Your ruling planet is in a fortunate, harmonious aspect with the ruler of the North Node, Venus, because Venus is currently transiting Gemini, your sister sign, so there's a mutual reception going on between these houses. Virgo, if you've not listened to the introduction of this video, I suggest that you go back and listen to the whole introduction. There's information that is going to help you evaluate how this lunar eclipse is going to affect you according to your natal placements. Libra, ascendant, sun or moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your second house. This is where you'll have endings and culminations. This is also the house where you've been holding on tightly to something that is no longer useful, something that is probably toxic, and this eclipse is going to definitely eclipse it out. The second house rules over what we love and value. It rules over our money, earned money, so this is a way of earning money. So if you don't like how you earn money, you don't like your job or your business, or some element in that area has become toxic, this eclipse is an excellent time for you to release that. It will be eclipsed out of your life. The family that is ruled by the second house is the family that we make with another person. This is the family that we choose. So this is the family that you make with a partner, or it's friends that have been in our lives for a very long time and we started thinking of them as family. So issues with these people are highlighted at the time of this eclipse. So if anything is toxic in that area, this is time that it's going to come to an end. It will be these situations or people will be removed out of your life. The second house also rules over our self-esteem. So if you have negative feelings about the way you look, your self-esteem is impacted, your self-esteem has been in the gutter. At this lunar eclipse, you're going to have to release those negative self-thoughts or about the things that you value in your life. This will be the time for you to let that natural elimination happen. And since the second house also rules over the face, and if you've been having acne, of course acne is something that erupts from the skin. So at the time of this lunation, perhaps you're going to have a major acne breakout, or for some, this could be the time that you actually get healing and your skin starts to clear up after this lunar event. So this lunar eclipse is going to bring toxic situations, toxic thoughts about ourselves, toxic thoughts about ourselves that affect our self-esteem, endings in ways of making money, parts that were toxic. There will be an ending there. Libra does not aspect the sign of Scorpio, so this might not be one of your most life-transforming lunar eclipses, unless, of course, if you have placements in the sign of Scorpio or Taurus, then those planets or points are going to be highly activated at the time of this lunar eclipse. Your ruling planet Venus is not aspecting this lunation. Your ruling planet Venus is transiting the sign of Gemini and is in a sextile aspect with planet Jupiter. So that is a very positive aspect, very harmonious aspect that brings opportunity your way. So whatever is ending, trust that the universe has something better in stock for you. Venus in Gemini is being hosted by Mercury, and Venus is also hosting Mercury, who's transiting retrograde in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is your sister sign. So there is a mutual reception going on between these two planets. Libra, if you've not listened to the introduction of this video, I suggest that you listen to the introduction, because if you do actually have placements in the sign of Scorpio, you are going to be impacted. So you need to find out the degrees of those points or planets and see if they're mentioned in the beginning and see if they're mentioned in the introduction. See how those planets are being aspected at the time of this lunation. Venus at 27 degrees of Gemini is in a quincunx aspect with Pluto, who's the ruler of this who's one of the rulers of this lunation. This is an uncomfortable aspect. You understand what you need to say in order to reach and in order to move towards your future, but there's something going on with Pluto that you can't quite see clearly. So you might have to just let Pluto have the power to eliminate what needs to be eliminated. The rest of the universe is going to take care of you. Perhaps you're not going to agree with some of the things that are being eliminated or purged at the time of this lunation, so you just might have to agree to disagree. So Scorpio ascendant, sun or moon, this lunar eclipse is happening in your sign. It's happening conjunct your ascendant, your first house. So this is highly personal to you. Personal endings that may have to do with your identity or how others see you. The first house is an angle house. It is the house that rules over the ascendant, you, your body. The ascendant opposes the descendant, squares the MC and the IC. So essentially that means that whatever changes that you're going to make at the time of this lunation, these changes are going to absolutely affect your entire life. This is the last lunar eclipse that's happening in your sign. The next time we're going to have the nodes moving on the next time we're going to have the nodes in the Scorpio Taurus axis is 9 years from now. So this lunar eclipse is giving you an opportunity to really let go and transform anything that has been toxic in your life. If this is impacting your sun in the sign of Scorpio, this is going to bring endings and culminations towards your identity or towards the male figures in your life. If this is impacting your ascendant, or you have your ascendant at 15 degrees of Scorpio, this is impacting you personally and your identity. If this is your moon at 15 degrees of Scorpio, this is impacting you deeply emotionally and your home area or your mother. So it all depends what placements you have in this sign. Scorpio, this is an excellent time for you to get a reading with me, because this is highly transformative energy, and if you need support and you want to know how it's going to impact you personally according to your own natal birth chart, I suggest that you book a reading with me. The link to my website is right below this video. So Scorpio, this lunation is your lunation. You're not going to get this opportunity to let go of negative habits, negative self-thoughts, or negative ways of you presenting of how you present yourself to others. This is your opportunity to really change your life. It will be beneficial for you to let go of all toxic habits. So if you have deep feelings of resentment or certain issues that you really don't like about yourself and how your relationships are going, these are things you need to release. Release obsessive tendencies, release jealousies, let go of toxic habits. This is a South Node eclipse. You are on the South Node. So this could be a somewhat dangerous transit for some Scorpio, especially if this is hitting something, especially if this is hitting something head on in your chart. It's really pushing you to really act on it's really pushing you to take action on whatever that planet that is being hit in Scorpio. It's giving you a chance to be the creator, the initiator in your life, the initiator of ending negativity in your life. The energy here is really focused on the other, because there's a stellium going on in the sign of Taurus, and the moon is alone in the sign of Scorpio. So you may be feeling a little bit displaced and lonely around the time of this lunation. Just understand that if a relationship ends, or if a partner is acting a little bit unusual or unexpectedly because of the opposition to Uranus, Uranus has been making your relationship somewhat difficult or complicated, or just unusual circumstances may have occurred in your relationships. If it's become too hard, your partner, since they have the power, they have all the planets transiting in their sign, they might be the ones who want change in the relationship. And if that is the situation, then let that relationship go. Just know that after May 18th, Jupiter is going to be transiting Taurus. This is really positive for us Scorpios. This means that pretty much the rest of the year is going to be much, much better than what we've been experiencing before. And this is because Jupiter transiting your descendant will help you let go of relationships that are no longer working. It will only remove the relationships that are not good for you, and it will bring in an opportunity for you to have better relationships. Some Scorpio risings are probably going to get married before Jupiter leaves their 7th house, and Jupiter in the 7th house will tend to bring a person a person who is a true partner. In astrology, Jupiter signifies the husband. So essentially, he will be bringing you a husband or a partner that is really much more ideal for you. So let go of that toxic relationship and look forward to the future, to that new partnership, to that new partnership. It could also be it could also be a business partner, and Jupiter transiting the 7th house is definitely also going to improve business for you. It's going to bring essentially a lot of interaction with others. So Scorpio, if you're having a challenging time at the time of this lunar eclipse, I suggest that you take advantage of the discount on my readings and book a reading with me. The first house rules over you, your body, your identity, how others see you. You could have endings to do with the self. Perhaps some of you are going to decide to go for surgery, some type of cosmetic surgery to alter a part of your body. I'm going to discourage you from doing any type of elective surgery around the time of this lunar eclipse because you don't have all the information that you need. Also remember that Mercury is currently moving retrograde in the opposite sign of Taurus. So you need Mercury to be moving direct so that there's no confusion or miscommunication about the outcome of your surgery. So wait for Mercury to be moving direct and wait for the energy of the eclipse to dissipate before you make any life-changing decisions about your identity or your appearance. Some of you could decide to revamp your whole entire wardrobe. So perhaps you've lost a lot of weight. The South Node has been transiting your sign, so this aspect alone could have helped you eliminate bad habits or lose weight somehow, because the South Node is asking you to let go. And for for some of you, it could have been weight that you actually let go. And now you're looking at your wardrobe. You have all these clothes that do not fit you anymore. This is the time for you to get rid of them, donate them so that you can make room for a new wardrobe. A new wardrobe that's going to give you a whole new appearance and express how you feel about yourself now. The moon is in your sign at the time of the lunar eclipse. The moon is in detriment in the sign of Scorpio. This energy might be aspecting you intensely and you're feeling quite emotional. So this is not going to be an easy lunation for you, Scorpio, and it's asking you to bring things that have been long-standing in your life, things that have not been working out and you've just been holding on to those situations. This is the time to end, release and purge those situations out of your life. The moon is alone in the sign of Scorpio and is facing a lot of oppositions. The opposite side is where your descendant is. There's a lot of activity going on with your partner and the decisions that they're making and are probably impacting you quite a bit. Scorpio, if you've not listened to the beginning of this introduction, I suggest that you listen to the whole introduction. This is your lunar eclipse after all, so the intensity and the focus is on you. Your ruling planets Mars and Pluto are highly active at the time of this lunation. Mars is currently transiting the sign of Cancer, and Mars is in detriment in the sign of Cancer. So this means you are acting in a detrimental way. You're perhaps being passive aggressive and highly emotionally triggered at the time of this lunation. You're very sensitive. And the moon, who is part of the lunar eclipse, is transiting your sign, where it's also in detriment and very uncomfortable because it's more comfortable on the opposite side in the sign of Taurus. So these are double negatives here, but somehow because there's that mutual reception going on between these planets, you're finding a way to navigate the energies, the toxic energies between the toxic and detrimental energies between these two houses. Your ruling planets are also in opposition at the time of this lunar eclipse. The opposition is an out of sign opposition. This is going to bring an element of confusion and disagreement within yourself. So this is another challenging aspect. Other ruling planet Pluto is also square the node. Sagittarius ascendant sun or moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your 12th house. This is where you're going to have endings and culminations. This is the area where you're going to definitely be releasing something that has been in your life for a while, something that you've been holding on to, something that's probably toxic. The 12th house is a hidden house. It is a dark place. This is the place where it is the house of rest. So usually with the 12th house, we are alone. It's the house that rules over the unknown spaces. It rules over aliens, other planets, and it also rules, let's bring it closer to home, other countries, foreign countries, not your close neighboring countries, but far off countries abroad. It's essentially the place of unknown. It is also the place of our hidden enemies, and those hidden enemies could be ourselves through our self-sabotaging habits, and those habits could be drinking too much, doing drugs, being involved in toxic relationships, hidden affairs. This is a place that rules over prisons, hospitals, anywhere that we're secluded away from the public. So this eclipse could essentially be very emotionally, it could essentially be very lonely for you. So some of you may be deciding to end your self-sabotaging habits. They have probably reached a high level of toxicity, and it's time for you to purge those toxins. So some of you may decide to enter a rehab facility, or you may decide to go into some type of therapy, or the hospital for some of you, if whatever you've been doing behind closed doors now needs some type of treatment. So this is excellent energy for you to release all these things. The 12th house also rules over our generational karma. This is karma that you didn't earn. This is karma that happened as a result of the name, your father's name, the family that you were born into. This is a time for you to end this generational karma. You're being given a chance to finally let go of this negativity that's in your life for a while. So in that sense, this lunation is quite positive. You will have the opportunity to release and begin anew, making your own karma and not repeating past life karmas, not repeating the karma of your father or your mother. This is a chance for you to be true to yourself. The 12th house rules all these secluded places. This could mean that some of you have already been in these programs, some of you were already in hospital, or some of you were already in therapy, and now you have this cathartic moment where you feel the intensity of the purge, the elimination, and you're about to cross over to the first house and start anew. So if somebody has been ill and been in hospital, this is the time that they could be released. If you have been in jail, this is the time that you may be released out of prison. And sometimes we have our own self-made prisons in our mind. This is the time that you will release yourself from that self-made prison. Others could be leaving a foreign country. If you've been living in a foreign country for a while and you've been unable to leave for whatever reason, this will be the moment when you can actually leave and come back home. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is not exactly involved in this lunation. Jupiter is transiting in the sign of Aries, and he's about to conclude his journey. As soon as Jupiter moves into the sign of Taurus, he's going to square Pluto. So you have some issues coming there. So you may have more issues coming ahead if you do not take care. So you may have a few issues to deal with towards the middle of May if you don't take care or release these negative and toxic situations out of your life, because Jupiter is going to blow these situations out of proportion. In the meantime, take advantage of Jupiter transiting in a fellow fire sign. Capricorn ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening. This lunar eclipse is happening in your 11th house. This is where you're going to have endings and culminations. This is the area where you're going to have some releasing and elimination. The 11th house is a happy house. It rules over our hopes, dreams, and wishes. The 11th house rewards all the work that we did in the 10th house. So for some, this might be a moment where you're seeing something come to culmination or fruition, something that you've probably been working on for a very, very long time. This is going to be the time that you're going to get your reward. Unfortunately, with this reward, you are still going to have to do some releasing. Perhaps if your hopes and wishes were a bit unrealistic, the result that you thought you were going to achieve is probably not what you're going to get at the time of this lunar eclipse. Or perhaps you will get exactly what you wished for, but something really meaningful has to be let go. So it all depends on how this lunar eclipse is aspecting your other planets, your other placements in your own natal birth chart. This is why I always suggest for you to get your own reading in order to find out. The 11th house also rules over our friends, our uncles, and our elder siblings. So for some of you, if you have toxic relationships with your friends and those with your friends or your uncle or your elder sibling, this is the time, unfortunately, that you may decide to cut communication, end the relationship with these people. And it might be bittersweet because they may have been people who you really cherished. 11th house rules our benefactors. So if you were involved with a benefactor who you really thought was going to really help, was really going to help push your ideas, your hopes, wishes, and dreams, and you come to realize that this benefactor has just been toxic and been taking advantage of you, and you're actually not benefiting anything, this might be the time that you decide to release yourself from this person and try and do things in a different way, or try and do things by yourself. The other thing that could possibly happen is that if you've been involved in a situationship, that of course a situationship that stays as a situationship is probably not the ideal relationship. So either you or your partner may be wanting to take this situationship into a more permanent relationship, and perhaps your partner is resistant to that. You will decide to end this situationship. Your ruling planet Saturn is actually supporting you in this action, whether you decide to end the relationship and move forward and find somebody else. Saturn is involved in a wide trine with Venus, who's almost finished her journey in the sign of Gemini. So a few days after this lunation, Venus will be transiting in the sign of Cancer, and then at that time this aspect, the trine aspect, is going to be activated. So if something ends now, Saturn is going to bring you something that is much more stable and something that is much more real. So this also goes for any situations that have been breaking apart and falling apart in your Capricorn house. Saturn is going to come in and open new opportunities for a proper commitment, a proper relationship, be it with your friends, be it in the social groups that you belong to, because this 11th house also rules over social media, the social platforms that we belong to, the social groups that we belong to. All that is under the 11th house. So Saturn is coming in and giving a stamp of commitment a little bit later on. So Capricorn, I know you want things to happen now, and you're looking around at the structures that are being destroyed and just wondering what's going to happen next. Just be hopeful that your ruling planet is definitely going to be bringing you some type of blessing, because the other thing is that Saturn is already currently sextiling some of your earlier placements in the sign of Capricorn. So look to see what placements you have at the beginning of Capricorn. He has not totally abandoned you. There is hope. Aquarius, Ascendant, Sun, or Moon. This lunar eclipse is happening in your 10th house. This is where you'll have endings and culminations. This is also the area where you're going to have to release, eliminate, or purge some situations out of your life. The 10th house is an angle house. So whenever an angle house is activated, it essentially means it activates all the other angles in your chart. So wherever endings happen in the 10th house area, they will affect your whole entire life. This might be a life-changing lunation for you, Aquarius. The 10th house rules over our standing in a society, our public image, our job, our boss, our authority figures. This is a public house, so whatever happens here is going to be known by everybody. It's going to be happening in a public setting. It's something you can't hide away from. So since this is a South Node eclipse, and it's also a parental axis because it opposes the IC, which is going to be activated at the time of this lunation as well, because this is where we have the concentration of energy, the Taurus house. This is where the stellium is. And Uranus is also being opposed by the moon at the time of this lunation and is conjunct the sun. So there's a lot happening in your home area, and whatever is happening in your home area is probably affecting your performance or your job, or how people are seen, or how you're seen in society. So there might be a status change. If you've been involved, if you've been working in a hostile environment, you've not been happy at your job, this might be the time that you decide to quit your job, and it will be a good letting go of, because this is something that you've been contemplating, and perhaps you haven't had the confidence to just remove yourself from this toxic environment. This eclipse is giving you that opportunity to say, enough is enough, I'm out of here. And on the other side, if you are the person who's been bringing the hostility and toxic behavior, this is the time that they're going to let you go. A lot of Aquarius risings are going to lose employment at the time of this lunation, and it's going to be final. You're probably going to have to start a whole new, you're probably going to have to take your career in a totally brand new direction. So back to the parental axis. If either of your parents have been battling an illness, some type of chronic illness, unfortunately this is the time that this lunar eclipse is going to eclipse them out of your life. They will transition at around the time of this lunar eclipse. So the other changes to status that can happen at this time is, if you are married, you could change from being married. So you could change from being married to being divorced or being widowed, or you could change from being single for a very long time to finally being married. Whatever happens, this eclipse is really changing how people see you, and they're not going to see you the same. All your angles are activated, and you're going to be feeling this eclipse energy for a while, because you are also ruled by Uranus, and he's going to go back to the degree he was when the conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and the North Node happened at the beginning of August last year. So that degree is highly important in your chart. It's being reactivated. So you may be going through several other issues other than what's happening at your job or with your standing in society. This is an excellent time for you to get a reading and really know how things are playing out. Your ruling planet Saturn is currently transiting in Pisces. He just left your sign where he's exalted. Saturn in Pisces is going to be dissolving boundaries, and those boundaries could have something to do with your earning ability. And Saturn in Pisces, if it's in your Saturn in Pisces in your second house, could bring limitations when it comes to your earnings, or you may have to suddenly start budgeting better, or you may have to start looking for other ways of earning more money, because Saturn may be decreasing money in some situations, and this could be a reality for those people who are going to lose employment. So Saturn brings restriction wherever he transits, and it will be in your second house. So here's another level of other things that may be playing out. Saturn, however, is involved in a wide trine, is involved in an out of sign trine with Venus, who's currently transiting the sign of Gemini. Venus is going to be moving into the sign of Cancer probably a week after this lunation, and your ruling planet will be in a better position to bring more positive energy towards you and bring much more supportive opportunities your way. Aquarius, you also have Pluto currently transiting your sign, and he's transiting stationary retrograde at the time. He's transiting stationary retrograde at the time of this lunation. So you have this intensity that is being brought in your sign, and if it's your ascendant, it's about your appearance, how others see you. And if it's your sun that is in Aquarius around that degree, it's your identity, how others see you in society. And if it's your moon, it changes with your home area, your emotions, your mother, your ancestors. This eclipse is going to be epic for you, Aquarius. I highly suggest that you book a reading with me at rachel-mayo.com. Pisces ascendant, sun or moon. This lunation is happening in your 9th house. This is where you'll have culminations and endings. This is also the house where you'll have elimination, purging, and releasing. The 9th house rules over foreign lands, foreign places, places that are really far away from where you live. It also rules over foreign people, languages. The ninth house is the house that rules over higher education, universities. This house also rules over our higher belief system. And this belief system is a belief system that was passed on to you by somebody you looked up to, perhaps a guru, a priest, your father. These are the areas where you're going to have to really ask yourself certain things. Is this belief system really yours? Is this belief system a belief system that is going to help you in your future moving ahead? Perhaps this is the time that some of you are going to decide to absolutely demolish it and start building and making your own beliefs. The ninth house also rules over the justice system. So if you've been involved in a lawsuit, a court dispute, anything legal that has been festering, been going on for a very long time, and it's made you feel really toxic and you have negative emotions about this, this might be the time that you just decide to end this lawsuit, settle, or it will come to an end and it will feel like a big release, a weight lifted off your shoulders. So this might be a good release actually. Since the ninth house rules over people we look up to, perhaps some of you had a really toxic relationship with your professor, a guru, or perhaps even a priest, and certain things have been going on behind the scenes for a few years and you've just been dealing with it and failing to find a way to release yourself because you look up to these people, but at the same time they have deeply hurt you and let you down. The relationship is absolutely toxic. This will be the lunar eclipse that is going to remove these situations out of your life once and for all. This is after all the last lunar eclipse we're going to have in the sign of Scorpio. The next time will be 9 years from now. So take advantage to purge these negative situations out of your life. The ninth house is the house that also rules over the future. It is generally a very optimistic and happy house. It's ruled after, this is a Sagittarian house. It's ruled by Jupiter. So, and Jupiter is also the sign that rules you. So I really believe at the time of this lunation, you have the power. You have the power to make these changes. You have the power to release whatever is toxic, whatever is no longer useful in this area. Let's also remember that you're a water sign. Water trines other water signs. So you're essentially trining this lunation. You're essentially trining the moon and sextiling the sun. These are really positive aspects. So whatever you decide to do at this time, or whatever leaves is purged out, eliminated, dies out of your life, trust that the universe is still looking out for you, because the energy is flowing harmoniously to your sign, and the sextile aspect will bring opportunities that can move you along to your destined future. So take advantage of this energy. Eliminate all toxic situations that you've been holding on to, which are no longer serving you. Time to let go, Pisces, and look ahead. Your ruling planet is currently transiting the sign of Aries. He's about to complete his journey in this sign, and he's positively aspecting Venus, an out of sign trine at the time of this lunation. Venus is in Gemini, so Venus is going to move into the sign of Cancer a week after this lunation. Your ruling planet Jupiter is squaring Pluto at the time of this lunation. It's an out of sign square, so you may not be feeling this energy as intensely, but Jupiter is about to transition and move into the sign of Taurus in a couple of weeks, and Jupiter is going to right away square Pluto. So if you're still holding on to the past and you've not used this energy, to eliminate situations, Jupiter is just going to emphasize those situations. It's going to blow them up, make them bigger, and then you'll be forced into letting go, into releasing. The other aspects happening at this lunation are actually easy aspects, and they're helping you. They're helping you to get rid of situations or whatever has to be released. Neptune, your other ruling planet, is aspecting this lunation by wide trines and sextiles. This is still positive energy, but Neptune is also involved in a negative aspect, a square aspect to Venus, which could essentially make you a little bit delusional, Pisces. You might decide to hold on or fantasize and hope these situations will somehow magically change, magically become positive. They're not going to. So just keep in mind that there's that aspect, and you are Neptune. You might be the deceiver, or you might be deceived in the area of love and money. So certainly I suggest do not make any life-changing decisions at the time of this lunar eclipse. You don't have all the information needed. You're not seeing things clearly, and Mercury is transiting retrograde.